Game on.
Hey, Drunken Master Paul here. If you like a smooth bourbon and some fine retro gaming, then you want to watch Glen's Retro Show on YouTube. I know I do, and you should too. Cheers.
Hi everybody, thank you for joining me on today's edition of Glen's Retro Show. Well, I do have the ATGames Legends Ultimate from Sam's Club, and it's a nice machine. I have to admit, I don't think it's the most attractive machine. Coming to the rescue is Joe Sabo. He has made me some new artwork we're going to talk about and install today on my Legends Ultimate machine, turning it from the standard Legends Ultimate you see right here into a Tron Legends Ultimate. Let's have a look. Okay, here's the packages I got from Joe Sabo. I got two separate boxes here because I got quite a few items in them. We'll take a look how they're packaged in a second. So here is my current ATGames Legends Ultimate machine. I do have the Al-Link active display up here, and of course my two Tron joysticks. But everything else here is stock at the moment. So you can see inside the first box, not only he has it wrapped in bubble wrap, but he also put in packing peanuts. He put a lot of care into making sure that his items arrive completely safe and undamaged. So you can see right here, I have the speaker grill under all of this wrap and the front part to the joystick controllers. And you can see you got this large box, tons of packing peanuts, also wrapped again in bubble wrap. So again, he took a lot of care to make sure this item arrived completely safe. And here's another shot of it. Now the controller area, the control panel, this is actually like a laminate. It's still flexible to put down, but it's also almost like an acrylic without being an acrylic. It's just very nicely done, and it's cut to precision, so you shouldn't have to do any type of trimming. As a matter of fact, everything you supplied here, it's just pretty much putting it on. You're not doing any type of trimming with a knife of any kind. It should fit perfectly on your machine. But you can see here is the control panel, speaker grill covers, and this goes right in front of your joystick control panel down here. You'll see it later on in the video. But you can see again, everything's packed, and even this is packaged again in plastic, and it is sealed tight. So if it was delivered in, say, the rain or the snow, which my mailman does constantly, none of this would have been damaged because all of the items were sealed in their own plastic. So again, very well packaged. You can see the underside of it here, the type of 3M adhesive it's using on this, and the other decal right here. Again, everything here is pre-cut. There should be nothing you need to do to put this on your machine whatsoever. Now here is the actual side art. Now if you look inside the box here, I've never seen anything like this before. It's in this square box, and there are these plastic holders holding in this tube to make sure that this is not being knocked around or any chance of being scratched if anything comes in through the sides. I've never seen anything like this. Again, the attention to detail and quality. I mean, look at this. It's a heavy piece of plastic, and then this tube, and everything's wrapped around that. Again, Joe Sabo's put a lot of effort. Look at this. I've never seen anyone ship decals or side art like this before. Again, I can't stress enough that he's put a lot of time and thought in to make sure your stuff arrives very safe. It almost looks like a little TIE fighter when you look at it like here. It comes out of the box. The box was pretty thick on its own. And then you have these large plastic holders on the sides, then your tube, and then it's still wrapped in a plastic to protect it in case it gets delivered in rain of any kind. Here's just some more shots because I'm just really taken back on how much effort he puts into his decals and his side arts. Look at that. They can even stand up just fine. These are really heavy plastic. I don't know if I should send it back to him. They're really, really nice. And again, just another shot to show you how thick this plastic is on here. And that's how it is when it comes off. So the plastic is sheathed in here, and it's wrapped, so no water would get into your decals here. And I am just, again, taken back on the effort he put in here. Look, even the package is happy about it. It's smiling. These decals are extremely excited. Look how much it's smiling. It can't wait to be put on my Legends Ultimate to make it look even better. So we do need to have it just lay down for, a couple hours to a day, just to get the, because it's obviously being shipped. It's in a circle. It wants to curl up. So you want to lay it down for a little while, put a couple weights on it just for a day or two, or even a couple hours, just so it just releases and relaxes a little bit, so it's not hard to put on. So here's what I'm starting with. This is actually the front kickboard of the Legends Ultimate. We have all of the different arcades on it. I decided to put it on the backside in case I ever wanted to turn it around. I probably never would, but the backside to me seemed like it was fine. You can see how much there's like dust when it was manufactured, dirt that's still on here. So we're going to just take some regular rubbing alcohol and just wipe this thing down as best you can to get all this dirt, dust, fingerprints, everything off it, any oils that'll keep the decal from sticking properly. Now you can see right here, my brother, he didn't know this. When I had this laying on the floor in the basement, he pushed some chairs and I didn't realize it, and he actually opened this up and there was all dog hair in here. We'll come back to this in a second, but again, this is going to show what kind of quality Joe Sabo uses here with his vinyl. This was all covered with dog hair. I was just using like an X-Acto knife to kind of scraping it out, and I was kind of concerned that it wasn't going to stick, it was going to look terrible, it was going to be bubbly or cracked and just look bad. But I didn't have a choice. My brother already done it, and I had to go through with the project. So let's just see what happens later. But remember, this is part of the kick plate area, and I'll show you where it is. This was covered in dirt and dog hair, and I just scraped it off with an X-Acto knife as best I could. And let's see how that holds on later. So here it is. You lay it down, and this is, again, all pre-cut. You can see here's the spot my brother messed up my decal here. Everything is pre-cut, so I just use a piece of double-sided painter's tape, just hold it in place to make sure I line up all my sides. I want this all to be perfect here because, again, there's no cutting necessary. So the only spot to be a little gap is right on these sides, and you want a gap here and a gap here because there are slots. This slides down into some slots. But down here and up here, it should be absolutely perfect. No issues here. You want to make it perfectly flat and butt it up right to the corners. And again, it's cut to the right size. So just mark it, put down some tape here, and then we're ready to get started. So all I'm going to do is I pulled back, as you can see, this is the adhesive part, and I used my X-Acto knife to cut off some of the paper, which is over here. And then I go over one more time with some rubbing alcohol and a paper towel, just to make sure all the fingerprints are off it, any oils, any hair, any dust is taken off. And then all I'm going to do is, now I know my buddy Cool Toy used a special tool to push this down. I use just my hand. I'm cheap, I guess, but I didn't have anything else, and it works very well. If you just take your time, you can use your hand. That's exactly what I did. So I'm going to slowly push this back and just run my hand back and forth, back and forth. And this thing, again, I don't know what Joe uses here for his vinyl. It really is I shouldn't say impossible. It's very difficult to get air bubbles in it. It goes down very well, and there doesn't seem to be any air bubbles in it, so it goes down very, very well. So once you complete that side, it's basically the same thing. I'm going to peel off some more of this here, cut a section off, rub an alcohol here again, and start laying it right back down again. Again, taking your time. See, I just cut it off right here, and the adhesive is shown here. And I'm just going to use my hand and go back and forth to push this back down. And that is it. You can see it went down very well. Over here, we'll take a look in a second. It actually went down fine. I was quite shocked. There was dirt, dog hair under this part of the decal, and whatever Joe Sabo uses here, it still went down perfectly fine, as if nothing was wrong with it. So you can see right here, it is still up right now, and I'm just going to go over it with my finger. Now this right here is actually just some adhesive. I just took some rubbing alcohol and it came right off. It probably happened during manufacturing, but it didn't ruin anything. The rubbing alcohol took that right off. But I'm going to press this down, and it went down, it stuck, and it did not look like there's any damage whatsoever. It'll look just like this side here. I'll get a shot of it in a second, but it goes down perfectly smooth. You can see there's just a tiny gap here and here on the side, but it's cut perfectly, and this is going to be basically sliding down towards the bottom of the floor, so you're not going to even see that part. But the top was on there perfectly. Okay, now here is the cabinet itself. Now, Joe's decal is one solid piece. You're supposed to just lay it down and put the whole piece on like that. Now, unfortunately, being a YouTuber that I am, and I do hack these things, I wanted to be able to still take this thing apart. So I actually will be trimming the decal. You don't have to do that, but I chose to because I do want to be able to take this thing apart. So You can see right here, here is the machine laid down on its side. I put a towel down in the bottom so I didn't scratch anything. You know, this artwork isn't bad. It's really not bad. It doesn't go all the way up, though. And it's just maybe a little too busy, I guess. I would have been fine with it, but I'm thinking I like Joe's a lot better. So again, you have to just go over this with some rubbing alcohol. You have to go over it and clean this really good with some paper towels and good rubbing alcohol. And here it is just a test fitting. So I just put it on top. I want to make sure, again, that all these spots here are equal. Just I eye it all the way around, make sure everything here is sitting good. And then once it's done, I'll put a couple pieces of tape on here to hold it in place, and we'll get started. But this is where you want to take the most of your time. You want to make sure that this is lined up as best you can, because how you pick it here is how it's going to lay down, and you don't want to have it going off to a side. Just spend the time now. It took me maybe 5-6 minutes, and once you find a good spot, put some tape on to hold it in place. So again, I'm just taking my time eyeing all these corners. I want to make sure that this thing is going around perfectly. And again, this thing is trimmed very, very well. Joe did a nice job here. Put a lot of time and effort into making sure that you do not have to cut and take a chance of, you know, ruining the decal or you know, having it not fit right. He did a really nice job with this thing here. So you can see now I've taken my top half apart. All my screws are out here, and I took my top half off, and I'm about to get started. So let's go. So here it is. I'm laying it down. I've already, you can see I got my blue tape here. I've laid this thing down. I made sure that it was going to fit in here all perfectly, all the way around. And then I simply cut off some paper, and then took my hand and went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until it was all the way down to the end. And that's what it looks like. Now, of course, if you're doing it one piece, you would simply continue this, you know, going all the way up to the top. You can see mine is now flopped down to the bottom, because I'm going to take an X-Acto knife, and I'm actually going to cut this right along the seam here, because I do want these to be separate. And maybe Joe can make that as an option. Maybe he can make it an option for some people who do want to do it that way. You know, maybe some people will. I know I did, but I had no problem cutting it, so I was fine with it. And you can see here, there was no bubbles. It went down very, very well. There's beautiful artwork on here. Just a very nice job. And of course, the way the control panel comes, I'm going to be cutting it straight across this section right here in a little bit. And I did that. Basically, I was standing here. I was standing in between it. I started here with an X-Acto knife from the backside, and I just took my time. And I can't speak highly of this enough. Use a brand new blade. The blades are like $1 a piece. Anytime you do any kind of cutting with this, put a brand new fresh blade on here. If you're not using a completely fresh blade, you're going to have tears. It's going to get caught. It's just going to get frustrated. Spend $1. Even me, spend $1. Put a brand new blade on, and it cut like butter. I went straight across. Just took my time. I used the wood as my guide. Came straight across to about here, because this part was already cut. So I needed to go from here to here, and it came out really, really well. Just another shot of the angle here. It just looks really, really nice. Cutting across again. Maybe Joe, if you see the video, maybe you can give people the option to have this thing pre-cut. Just an option. It's just something to think about. So now I'm doing the same thing here. Taking the part that I cut off, and if you cut it correctly straight across, again, you'll have no problem here. There'll be no gaps, and there isn't. So I'm just taking my time here, making sure it's all lined up. I'll put the tape on, and same thing. Just take my hand back and forth, putting this decal on, same way as I did with the other ones. Now it's time to do the other side, and it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to lay it down, you know, take my rubbing alcohol, clean this as best I can. Start here, make sure everything is lined up on these corners. Start putting it on and cutting it across. And here we go. So I make sure my sides here are all perfect. Spend your time now. Put a little piece of tape on and slowly run your hand, or I guess it's a sponge or some type of rubber, I don't know what it's even called, spackle, to go across here. But my hand worked just fine. But again, you can see I put a towel on the floor just to make sure I don't scratch the Tron decal. It's on there already. And once it's on, now it's time to, once again, trim this across. In my case, again, if you're keeping it as one unit, this cutting is not necessary. It's just if you want to make the top still removable. And now that the base is done, same thing has to be done over here. Clean this all with alcohol. Make sure it's nice and shiny and clean. Line up your decal and get started. You want to line up your decal and put it on, and when that's all done, onto the monitor area. Now, since the machine I'm doing is Tron, ATGames already has a Tron theme on here, so I don't need to do what Cool Toy did. Cool Toy actually put a brand new bezel on over here. I don't need to do that. I do need to put one on over here. So what I'm going to do is, since I have my machine apart, I laid it down. You got to take out, actually you don't have to. I chose to take out my 4 screws here to take these grills off, just to make it easier putting on the new decal for here. I never liked this whole look here. It just didn't look like it fit with the machine. It was too plain, and it's going to look a lot better in a minute. So you can see ATGames installed 2 speakers that already were damaged. I didn't notice it took the grill off, but both these are already pressed in. They sound fine. It's not going to affect it, other than it just doesn't look very nice. But I take out my 4 screws here and did on the other side, and we're going to start laying on the overlay. See, other side too. Damage from the factory. Maybe someone was mad and took out their finger and flicked it. In any case, the speakers do still work. So you want to do the same thing. You want to go over here with some paper towels and rubbing alcohol. Make sure all the dust is taken off of here and everything's clean and dust-free as possible. Now, I laid this thing down, but what I did was, you can see I did cut out the 2 speaker holes, just so I can kind of line them up as best I could here. And I did the same thing. I lined it up on all corners. I just put some painter's tape to hold it in place so I can tear off some paper, lay it down, and work my way across. You can see right here, I peeled it back. I'm going to cut this with an X-Acto knife, and then slowly work my way over. You have to be a little careful on the speaker area. Anytime you got these open holes, it can bind on you. So take your time, go a little bit over here, a little bit here. Just be very careful. This is probably the hardest part, is going around any openings like this. But you can see it did go down very well. It went down very, very well. Again, no bubbling, no popping, no tearing, nothing. So that's done. I got to repeat the same steps on this side over here. And that is it completed. That looks really good. Joe did a nice job. He gave me my my logo on here, like Cool Toy, which I think looks great. I'm very thankful he put that on there. And I think that makes this whole area look a lot better. Once the speaker grills go on, you won't see these 2 damaged speakers. But I just think it makes the whole machine flow. Before, it kind of was just like a stopgap, or not a very nice looking stopgap. But I like how that looks. So the only thing I could say, if I'm going to be nitpicking, the only thing I could say is that the circular area here is a little bit oblong to the top. So when your speaker goes on, you'll see it'll cover the decals down here, but it will show up here. Again, it's not a big deal at all. But if Joe does see this video, maybe he can adjust that here, because it looks like the circle is just a little bit off in the upper corner here, so the grill doesn't cover it completely. So you can see here, the decal goes under the grill on this side, but as you come onto this side, it does come out just a little bit. Again, it's not something you're really going to notice when you're playing it, but just something if Joe sees, maybe you can make a small adjustment on that to make sure it gets covered a little bit better. Okay, so I took a picture here. I also decided to cut out the screw holes. Now, if you're making it one piece and not going to be taking it apart, you can just leave these covered with the decal. I chose to carefully cut out both these holes here, just so I can get in here and take the machine apart if necessary. Again, you want to make sure you have a nice sharp blade, and just trim around it very easily. And that's it. Just follow the wood around in a circle and cut that out, if you choose to. So here it is. I'm starting to move all my machines back into my main room and get my theater room back to being a theater room. So you can see here's the decals. It looks very, very nice. And you can see, since mine is 2 separate pieces, I can slide it on as needed. And I'll show you how this thing turned out. It actually turned out pretty well. But the thing machine already looks a lot better than it did before. It just looks like more of an arcade feel. So that's it. So once this is down, you can see a little line here, but I went over my finger once and it got even less noticeable. The other side's even less noticeable, if that's a word. But you see, it does look really, really nice. It makes the machine just look more like an arcade machine. So you can see right here, this little white part, I just pressed down with my finger here, and it made that gap go away a lot more. You'll see another shot of it in a minute. But even if that was like that, I really wouldn't mind it. Some people might. To me, it was more important to be able to take the machine apart again if necessary. And you can see here's a screw hole. It's very hard to see that it's there. Here's the other screw hole. If I make that some black marker in here, and in here, you probably wouldn't see it at all. But they do make covers, so I'm really not worried about it. So here's just a closer shot. See, the things did line up very well. So you can tell that this is done really well here. This smidgen off back here, but again, you really can't tell too much. I'm still very happy with it. So here's that line I was telling you about, but I'll go over it in a minute with my finger, and when I do that, this almost goes away completely. And there we go, here's that same shot. So I swirled my finger just once, and it's still two separate pieces. I can still slide this on and off. You can see that gap. Let's go back one shot here. That was before, and that's after. Just walking by and passing, you wouldn't even notice this at all. It's only that you notice it, or you've been told it, you'll see it. Here's the other side by default. I didn't do anything here, and it just came out a lot better. It even lined up a little bit better here and here, but it just looks really, really good. And again, here's one screw hole that's over here, and the other screw hole's in his hand. It's hard to even see. Here's a closer shot of it. Again, if you look hard, you can see it, but again, to me, it was more important to have the machine to be able to pull apart for any project I might be doing. So there's the other side over here. It looks really, really nice. The decals over here. So now it's time to slide in the front kick plate, and of course the controller still has to be done. So I slid that thing right down there, and it looks really, really good. Makes it a really nice looking machine. So now it's time to work on the control panel. So to do this, the only thing you have to remove is the two spinners, and your joysticks will have to come out, or in my case, my Tron joysticks have to come out. But the overlay, other than that, is pre-cut, and it'll slide right on here. But again, you've probably been playing this a lot. Get some rubbing alcohol. You got to do a really good job of just cleaning this up with rubbing alcohol and getting as much oils off of that. So you can see all the fingerprints that are on here right now. All those are oils that will, could cause the decal not to stay down permanently. But it would be a real pain in the ass if you had to take out all these buttons, all the wiring in here, real pain. So Joe has you covered, and he made it so you do not have to do that. Also, here's the front panel. So there's gonna be a decal that goes on here. So this also has to be cleaned with rubbing alcohol, same way as best you can. Get any dust off of that. And now I'm gonna slide on that decal, same process. Put it down. I use some tape here to make sure it didn't move. Peel it back, cut it, lay it down. Again, I did it all by hand. And it came out very, very well. Again, it was cut perfect to size. Goes all the way across. No trimming is needed. And it fit in there perfectly. So now that that's done, it's time to work on the control panel itself. So here was just a test fitting. Just laid it on. And you can see everything is pre-cut. So it just slides in. You can put your finger in here. It's nice and smooth. There's no like plastic hitting inside the wood on either one of these sides. It's fit down very, very well. And you can see, even though this is, it's not an acrylic, but it's, I don't know what, Joe will probably tell me in the comment down below what this actually is. But since you have acrylic down here, it's very close facsimile and it's flexible. So once you have it lined in a spot that you want, just go up here, peel off some of the tape, lay it down, again, go over it, and follow the same process you did with the other decals. And voila, that is now on. That looks really, really good. So now we have to put our spinners back on, and our controller joysticks back in, and then we can mount the control panel in the machine. And there it is, mounted in perfectly. It looks great. So here's a shot in the front. The machine's not turned on yet, but you can see the whole unit. It might be out of focus a little bit. My camera, I don't think, took a very good shot. It looks out of focus to me anyway. But even out of focus, it looks really good. Here's a shot of that control panel looking down. It looks really, really good. Joe did a really nice job. Again, the biggest thing with Joe here is, number one, the vinyl goes down very well, and I've never had it bubble on me once in putting it down, even just doing it by hand. And all the artwork is already pre-cut, which is also a huge plus. And this acrylic topper, again, everything is pre-cut. It goes down great. Here's just another shot of the machine. I'll have it turned on in a minute, and don't mind that guy in the picture there. Don't mind him at all. A shot on the side. Now it is turned on. Again, very happy with it. I mean, it probably took me from taking my time. It probably took like 3 hours taking my time. And I do suggest you take your time, because it's better to measure 4 or 5 times, make sure everything's lined up, and do it once than messing it up. And it looks, it's probably one of the nicest looking machines now in the area, especially with the Al Link light up marquee up here, and then all this artwork down here. It looks really, really nice. Just another shot. And there's all my machines now lined up in one room. And, you know, my brother actually came in here and he walked up and he goes, and he just started playing it. My brother never plays anything I have. And he walked in here and he just started playing my my Tron unit. He said it was just a nice size, it would fit with him. And he just started playing it. So I was actually shocked he was doing that. But again, the Al Link light up marquee looks good. And then, of course, Joe Sabo's artwork looks phenomenal. And another interesting thing about the Al Link light up marquee is there's a little gap in the top, and I found that the Legends Ultimate would actually sit right on top of it. I didn't mount it, it's just actually sitting in there. I think I'm going to leave it that way. There was a time where I was going to take this and I was going to put it here covering the speakers, but then Joe told me he was making me this, and I said okay, put it on top, and I think that looks really good.
So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I tell you, I take my hat off to Joe Sabo. The vinyl he uses goes down very well, even by hand. There's no bubbling, no having to readjust it. Just start smoothing it down with your hands, and it went down very, very well. And the fact it doesn't have to be cut is a huge plus to a lot of people. Of course, I have gotten pretty good at cutting it, but if I didn't have to, it saves you a lot of time. It's just putting it down and you're done. And then the control panel overlay is an icing on the cake, because that is a nice acrylic overlay that ATGames had there already. But when you put Joe's on there, you can't tell that it's not the same. And it went on very, very well. It was cut precisely. Just a really all-around nice kit. Links down below to Joe Sabo if you want to look at his vinyl decals. Of course, he goes above and beyond. He does multiple machines, including arcade machines. So Joe does a lot of different things. Very high quality stuff, from shipping to actually putting it on your machine. But I do want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope you're having a really good day. And once again, thanks for watching, and no matter what you do or how you do it, game on.
at the Tiny Arcade fan page. Remember, don't admire people too much. They'll disappoint you.
Sit.